This is the Moonlight Graham Show, a freewheeling conversation with the role players, the underdogs, and guys with flat-out great stories in sports.
Hello and welcome back to the Moonlight Graham Show, and the Masters starts today, so we had to drum up a very special episode of the Moonlight Graham Show, and joining us today, our Moonlighter, is a guy by the name of Jack Newman. The Newman family is kind of a famous athletic family from Des Moines. There's a lot of great athletes in that family, including Jack's dad, who was a baseball player. Jack's brother, David, was a Mr. Basketball in the state of Iowa. And Jack himself was a great golfer that went to Des Moines Hoover High School and then went on to play collegiately at Michigan State University, where he was an all Big Ten golfer while he was there. And back in 2008, Jack Newman won the U.S. Amateur Public Links Tournament. And by winning that tournament, it qualified him as an amateur into the Masters in 2009. And in 2009, Jack teed it up with the likes of Tiger Woods and Phil Mickelson and Fred Couples and Rocco Mediate, who he was paired with. And I was able to get connected with Jack Newman to do a nice interview as we tee off for the Masters today. It's, of course, a special Masters, the first time it's ever taken place in the month of November. So we had to get a Moonlight Graham episode out for today. After Jack's career at Michigan State, he did play on some mini tours and some low-level professional tournaments. He did play also in the Byron Nelson tournament one year. I think grand total, he played in like 3 career PGA Tour events, but this was the only Masters tournament he ever played in. This is the only major tournament he ever played in. Like all great athletes, Jack is now working in the insurance industry. As we all know, all great athletes end up selling insurance. And I was really happy Jack and I were able to get connected for this episode on the brink of the Masters tournament. So enjoy today's special episode with Moonlighter, Jack Newman. And if you like what we're doing here on the podcast, make sure to subscribe to the Moonlight Graham Show wherever it is that you get your podcasts. And we would love it if you left us a 5-star review. You can also follow the show on social media, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube. We love hearing from you guys each and every week. So enjoy today's episode with Moonlighter, Jack Newman. Jack Newman, it has been 11 years since your Masters appearance. Let's talk about how you qualified for the 2009 Masters. So you win the U.S., the U.S. Amateur Public Links Tournament in 2008. Yep. How's that all work to get you into the Masters?
So what you got to do is you got to do a 36-hole day qualifier, which I did out at Harvest Farms, just northeast of Des Moines by about 45 minutes, or the Harvester, I think it's called.
Yeah, the Harvester.
Yep. And then once you get through that, then you get out there and you're playing with, all the big boys, it seemed like. And you got 36-hole days or 36 holes of stroke play. And then after that, you've got about 5 days of just pure match play. And then only the winner from the U.S. Amateur Public Links gets into the Masters.
So you were like the 20th seed entering, I believe, the match play of this. So you're a total underdog. And we're all about the underdogs here on the Moonlight Graham Show, Jack. So what was your mindset going into like match play, knowing like you're a pretty big long shot?
That was my first time, I think, ever making match play. I had been in some playoffs, I think, to try to get in and never done it. And so that was the first time ever in. I mean, you got Billy Horschel, you have Ricky Fowler there, a bunch of good guys that somehow got past and got the dub.
Did you beat those guys head to head, Fowler and Horschel?
Not Fowler. I think he got knocked out previous, but I beat Horschel in 21 holes.
So I'm a baseball guy, right? And there's some of these guys that I played against in my playing career where I see them in the major leagues now and I think, man, I used to own that guy. Is there like Billy Horschel for you? Is he one of those guys that you see him now? He's done really well. He's made a ton of money. He's won a bunch of tournaments. Do you watch him on TV now and think, man, I used to beat Billy Horschel?
No, not so much him, but I used to be able to compete with some of the guys that are out there. But Billy was always top notch. He was always cream of the crop. So beating him was kind of a big deal for me.
So when you won that tournament, that U.S. Amateur Public Links tournament, did you know right away I'm going to the Masters?
Oh, yeah. Yep. At about 3 holes before I ended up winning it, somebody yelled, "You're going to the Masters," and I just turned around and said, "Not yet." Didn't want to get ahead of myself, but yeah, no. As soon as we won, it was party central.
Well, how nervous were you the last 3 holes then, with the Masters on your mind?
My oldest brother Andy was on the bag, and we just kept talking about nonsense in between shots, and so he can make me laugh pretty good. And the last hole, there was water all down the right, and back in the day, I used to play pull cut, and man, I don't even really remember hitting the tee shot, so got a little lucky, I guess.
So how much time between that tournament where you get the invitation to the Masters and then the next year's Masters tournament? Would it have been like 6 months or so?
At least, probably around 9. So after about a month after I won that, I got the official invite in the mail, and then proceeded to go once that fall. So as soon as you get the invite to go to the Masters, you can go as often as you want. Pretty much you're treated like a member there, which is pretty amazing. But so I went once in the fall, and then 3 times in the spring before the tournament even happened.
What was your first time at Augusta like? When you step foot on the hollowed grounds and you look around, and because I've only seen it on TV, like most of us are, barred from the premises.
Yeah, it's as picturesque as you can get. The first time I played it, it was cold, windy. It had just rained the night before, and I went driver 3-wood into the number 1. And now everyone goes driver pitching wedge, but when it's cold and windy, I was like, what am I getting myself into? So it was a different experience. When you get to drive down Magnolia Lane, it lives up to all the hype and more, no doubt about it.
Yeah, what is it about that makes it special? Obviously on TV, they do such a good job, and, the flowers in the springtime and the birds chirping and Jim Nance, and, they do such a great job with Butler Cabin even. But when you've played at a lot of nice golf courses, I'm guessing. So what makes Augusta different?
Really, it just lives up to the hype. I mean, they do little intricate things where most people don't know unless you've been. All their trash is green. So on TV, you're not seeing any of the riffraff. If somebody drops a piece of trash, it's going to blend right into the grass. Everything's mowed perfectly. I've heard that they've had a different crew for each hole. I don't know if it's separate crews for like 3 holes, but every hole is intricately taken care of. I was there the year before they redid the driving range. So I was on the old school driving range where you had to hit into the net, but no, everything's immaculate. Everybody treats you like you're a former winner, which is incredible, because clearly as an amateur, you're not. You just can't say enough about it. Everybody, as soon as they get onto those grounds, they just flip a switch.
So Jack, when you're there, right, and you're doing your practice rounds in preparation for the tournament, sure, was there any piece of you that thought like, man, I don't belong here? I'm in over my head a little bit here, just because like there are probably guys like Tiger Woods walking around, or, Sandy Lyle or Fuzzy Zeller or some of these past champions. And at this point, you're just like a junior in college.
Right. That first round, I mean, that was pretty eye-opening. I was like, I got a long way to go before I can ever get to here. And clearly I never made it to there. But yeah, that first round was a bit of awakening. And then after that, though, once I started getting a little bit warmer during the springtime, then I got out there doing a couple practice rounds. Like I got to play with Rocco on the weekend before we even played together, because I played with him during the tournament, and just playing with him, getting to schmooze a little bit, getting to talk about stuff. You start to feel like one of the guys. And after a while, you don't think about it.
Was there any part of you that thought like this course really suits my game? I might have a chance of making the cut or making the top 10, top 25, that sort of mindset?
I definitely thought I had to make a chance to make the cut. Shot even that first day, was playing good and just didn't make it happen, but definitely making the cut. I wanted to do that. I could have done it, but I just didn't get it done. So,
Yeah, that week of the Masters, you have like the par 3 tournament. You have some of those dinners that people hear about, but even the par 3 tournament, it's pretty publicized, but still I feel like the public only has a glimpse into what it's really like. So what are those kind of behind the scenes events like of Masters week?
Well, it's pretty unique that you just said Sandy Lyle and Fuzzy Zeller, because that's exactly who I played with in the par 3 contest.
I did my research, Jack.
Oh, I like it. Now, stuff like that, it's incredible, because my dad didn't get a caddy during the tournament, but par 3 course he did. So he got it carried around, and Pop's got to, hang out with those guys, chat with them. I mean, Fuzzy liked us enough that after we missed the cut, we got to go over to his house and drink some Fuzzy's vodka on Friday night, and then got invited to his Pro-Am later that summer. So,
wow.
Making connections like that, everybody's good people around there. So, some of the backstories, they have an amateurs. I felt like it was an amateurs dinner because it was just mainly focused on us, but I feel like there was other members there. But that was great. I was in high school or in college, and we got to stay in the Crow's Nest. So just doing all sorts of stuff like that, having a cocktail before you go up to the Crow's Nest was pretty sweet. So then there's some stories that happened up in the Crow's Nest that you can't really converse about, but not our year, previous years.
Oh, I bet stuff like that,
Yeah.
kind of what happens at Augusta stays at Augusta. I'm sure there's a lot of that.
Definitely.
So your first competitive tee shot at Augusta, and they announce your name, and it's the actual Masters tournament. All the practice rounds are behind you at this point. How nervous are you? Is that the most nervous you've ever been on a golf course?
Yep. No doubt about it. Definitely blacked out during that moment. So when I was on the driving range, I'd get up there, try to hit a 60-yard or a 60-degree wedge shot, like 80 yards. And all I was concentrating on was just trying to make clean contact. Don't chunk it. That's literally, you never do that, but over the ball, that's all you're thinking about. And then you get onto the first tee, and on the first tee, you meet everybody. Freddie Couples kind of talks to you, but he's also really tough, clean guy where he won't talk to you unless you're talking to him. Rocco does not stop talking. And then, so that was nice. Put the peg in the ground, tee the ball up, and I just really don't remember anything besides Rocco giving me a hug after I hit the first tee shot.
So you shoot 72 on day one. You got to be feeling pretty good. So what do you do on Thursday night after you have a good opening round? Does that make you more nervous or less nervous?
No, at that point, you're pretty much locked in. We had a bunch of family down there. We had a nice little house to the south side. I don't think I was too nervous, just when you're out on the golf course and you have certain shots, you're definitely nervous.
What's the toughest shot on the course?
Toughest shot. I've told a couple guys down here, and they'll probably get a kick out of this, but I don't think I missed the green or ever hit in the water on number 12 in any practice round. If I did, it was just long. During tournament, long left, make bogey first round. Second round, right in the water. It goes, Rocco dumps it in the water, I dump it in the water, then Freddie Couples dumps it in the water. Just all three of us. You'd think it'd be pretty simple with an 8-iron or a 9-iron in your hand, but it's a different animal.
Is it all about the wind? What makes that? Because we saw it. Was it just last year with who was the guy, the Italian guy? Molinari was in the lead, and then he melted down, starting with putting one in the water there on 12, which led to Tiger's comeback. You've been in that situation, putting one in the water. So what makes that shot so hard? On TV, it looks so easy.
Because you really don't want, obviously the bailout's a little long, but you really don't want to go long because then that's an extremely difficult up and down. But it's just nerves. You got everybody around you. So 11 comes down the hill and everybody's watching you on 11. And then there's also just a huge horseshoe of people that are watching 11 green, watching 12 tee shot, and then 13 coming back up and around. It is just a huge mass of human beings that's just standing there and you're trying to block out. And then, you got a semi-difficult shot. And I think that's kind of what separates Tiger from everybody else,
Do you think without all the fans there this year, right, is that going to affect the play in any way?
I think it's affected a lot of play. I think people not being able to, I remember talking with Zach Johnson, and he said that, having people along the sides of the fairways almost locks you in even more. And there's no doubt about it. Everyone becomes an eventual blob or a blur, and you just hone in and you lock in just that much more. And then also those people, they're not there. I hit a ball right that's hit a guy in the hip on number 5. I'll never forget. And he saved me from, probably going into the tree. He saved me a couple strokes. So I think that definitely affects it. as far as like rooting and whatnot, I think that stuff kind of affects people in favor of Tiger Woods, because everyone wants him to win.
What do you expect to happen this year? Do you see Bryson just bombing it all over the course?
Yep. I see him bombing it all over the course. I think he'll be a freak show out there. I think Rory's going to be there.
Ooh. What about the pine straw? I've always thought it looked so fun to hit off the pine straw as opposed to like some of U.S. Open courses where the grass is so thick. Like the pine straw looks like pretty easy to hit off of.
It is until you get in there and you're in a practice round and you start wiggling your feet down trying to find, the solid ground. And next thing you know, you've moved your ball even though you're 3-4 feet away from it because you're trying to find solid ground because there's so much pine straw in there that if you just stand normally, your feet might slip, that ball will move, and that's a stroke penalty on you. So it's a little different.
Did that happen to you at all?
Not during the tournament, just during practice rounds.
Yeah.
I did it once or twice, and then I stopped messing around with it.
So you go 72, 76, you miss the cut. What was that feeling like was it just a relief or that like, man, I'm so glad I had this experience? Or was it like massively disappointing that, you missed the cut?
Long-term, very appreciative that I got the opportunity to play there. In the short term, I was so single-minded, so focused on that I was extremely disappointed.
At that point, did you think you were going to be back?
I mean, that was my whole goal. That's what I was working for, to win a PGA Tour event and get back there as a professional. That was kind of always my goal.
So, Jack, you're still young, right? You're still young. There's still hope for a comeback here. How often do you think about the golf comeback?
Trying to think. When I first started in insurance, I thought about it a little bit, but insurance is so much fun. I got to play on the weekends. I'm a weekend warrior now. I appreciate it. I appreciate Dallas and everything like that. So I don't really think about it too much anymore.
But you got to be the guy that everybody calls to play in the 4-man best balls because the insurance world is full of those.
Yeah. Well, hopefully they start kicking around next year. So hopefully once 2021 comes up, we'll be rolling.
Yeah. So obviously you went to Des Moines Hoover, right? You're a Des Moines guy, born and raised, a lot of great athletes coming out of the Newman family. What was your favorite course around the Des Moines Metro growing up?
Oh man, I grew up on Waveland Municipal Golf Course. Bob Van Scoy was the head pro back in the day. Used to pay $125. Me and my best friend Matt Owen, that was our daycare, man. We'd go out there, you pay $2, $2 water fee, and you just go out there and play 36 holes and call it a day.
Is there any course that you've played, whether it's in Iowa or across the world, that holds a candle to Augusta?
No, pretty simple, no. But one that I do mention a lot is Pasatiempo out in Santa Cruz, California. Got a privilege to play that. That's another Mackenzie course. And I believe it was hosted by San Jose State. Our coach at the time was he had just come from Stanford, so he had all the West Coast connections because I went to Michigan State for Mark Hankins, Iowa guy, and then he went back, and now he's a Hawk. Or no, he's now in Nebraska. He was a Hawk, though. And so my coach Purrier was West Coast guy, and we got out there, and dude, Pasatiempo's top notch. It's incredible.
So I couldn't help but notice the way you said Hawk there. Not a Hawkeye fan?
You're going somewhere with this, and I don't like it.
No, I didn't grow up, Jack. I didn't grow up a Hawkeye fan either.
I'm kidding around. I just took a beating from all my Iowa buddies this past weekend.
Oh, really? Oh, of course.
Yeah.
Sorry, Rocky Lombardi.
Oh, there's another West Des Moines. There's a West Des Moines guy for the next one. So yeah, no, I was pretty pumped when Rocky got the call to be a starter this year. So hopefully he can keep it going. He got a nice W against Michigan, which is I'll take a 1-2 start with a win against the Little Sisters.
Jack, since the last time that you played Augusta, right? Since the 2009 Masters, have you been able to get back since then?
The next spring we got an invite back, but not since then. So we got an invite back. We went and played 18 and had a nice little opportunity there.
So when you say we, like who goes with you?
So we ended up getting the whole Michigan State team out there like five of us that were down there on spring break. We got to travel over to Augusta, and yeah, we got a member invited us, and
Amazing.
he had another member. I won't say their names just because I know they like to keep it private, but yeah.
So when you were at Augusta or throughout your golf career, who's the one guy that has left you starstruck?
That left me starstruck, like being around. I never got to be like really close to Tom Watson. Always wanted to be around him. He was my dad's favorite. But Freddie Couples was pretty impressive. He was pretty cool. He had the swagger and everything. So grew up loving him. He's probably, my version of all the little kids' version of Ricky Fowler today. You know what I mean? Just the cool swag. So.
Oh yeah. Every year, like we're almost the same age. I think I'm 1 year older than you. So Freddie Couples was always the guy. Like he was the coolest guy going. Him and Greg Norman in the 90s. Yeah. And the fact that he's so good at Augusta, like I don't know what he'll do this year, but like he'd always be 3 or 4 under par after Friday and always in the mix.
It's incredible. I mean, into his 50s he was doing that.
Yeah. And he actually played pretty well in the senior event this past week. So we might see another good round out of Freddie coming up this weekend.
I'd love it.
So you played with Freddie, though, and you said he didn't talk a whole lot on the course. What back and forth were you able to have with him?
The week before he had played well in Houston. So we were talking a little bit about that and how well he had played. He had a chance to win. Then we just talked about Augusta. But besides that, I mean, if you didn't go up and approach him, he wasn't coming up to you. Whereas Rocco, he'd go up and talk to anybody. It was a great time. Freddie was a good time too. He just, he's a killer.
Right. He's there to win. How do you watch the Masters now? You've played in it. You're going to be watching it, I'm assuming, this coming weekend. Like, what's that experience like for you watching it?
It's a lot of fun, actually. I mean, getting to think about where some of the pins are, what type of shots based off of somebody's drive, what you think you'd hit into there, or, where their miss is going to try to be. But outside of that, I mean, I really just try to enjoy it. But
did you ever meet Tiger?
I didn't. I saw him from about 30 yards away. He had a few too many people around him for me to approach him. And yeah, his head was bobbing above the crowd, and that was that.
Yeah. Well, you're our Masters expert here on the Moonlight Graham Show, Jack. So coming into this weekend, I know I'm getting in a pool with some of my buddies betting on it. You mentioned Rory earlier. You mentioned Bryson. Like, give us your top 3 guys to watch heading into the tournament.
Ryan Moore, has he been playing well? He always is sneaky good around there. He's kind of like the Freddie Couples version. I don't know if he'll win, but who's the new young guy who just won the PGA Championship? Why can't I think of his name?
Oh, the guy, he went to like Stanford.
Yeah, I don't want to pick him, though. So let's go Rory, Adam Long, my buddy, and then he better be playing in it. I think he will. And then
what about Ricky? Does Ricky have any chance out there?
Yeah, I don't think so. Hopefully he doesn't watch this, but and then let's see. I'll go DeChambeau. I'll just cop out and go DeChambeau.
All right. You're a Dallas area guy. Didn't he go I think he went to SMU down there. So you're kind of playing the whole guy.
I'd like to go Spieth, but I just don't know if he's hitting it good enough.
Yeah, he's another Dallas area guy. So I guess final question here, Jack, is what did you keep? How do you remember that tournament? Did you keep a towel? Did you keep a flag? Or like, what do you have from that Masters experience?
I know my folks and some family members have some flags and whatnot. I have several shirts, couple sweaters. I'm a big enough nerd to where I've kept a couple pencils and scorecards, and I keep those on my own. So I'm nostalgic like that. Let's see what else. I know we have some other really cool stuff, but we got a big book. So that was one of the cooler things. So after the tournament happens, then they do highlights of the whole tournament. So that was the year Angel Cabrera. Yep, that was the year he won it. And so there's just a bunch of highlights of him, the highlights of everybody. And they send you, it's about this thick, like an 1.5 inch thick book recapping the tournament. It'll be something.
Did your picture make it?
No. No.
But you got the book. I'm sure they only give those out to, the guys that played and, a select few.
Yep.
Cool. Well, Jack, we're all going to be looking forward to the Masters tournament this weekend. Thank you so much for joining the Moonlight Graham Show and helping out with the DMAC and what they're doing over the student activities. So really appreciate your time and, take care down in Dallas.
That's pretty cool. Nope. I appreciate you.
Hey guys, thanks once again to listening to today's episode of the Moonlight Graham Show. And even though I do most of the interviews here on the podcast, there is a ton of work that happens behind the scenes that you guys don't see that make each episode possible. So I got to give a shout out to the Moonlight Graham Show team. First of all, Brian Sandvig, our producer. Brian does all of the post-production work, and in real life, he's not just a podcast producer, he's also a real estate agent. So if you're looking to buy or sell a home down in the Kansas or Missouri areas, give Brian Sandvig a call. Next guy on that list is Brendan Gargano. Brendan does all of our design and artwork here on the podcast. He's one of the most talented artists I've ever met, and I love all of his work. If you need any help on the design side with logos or anything like that, give Brendan Gargano a call. The next guy on that list is Andy Flattery, my older brother. Andy, of course, has done some of the interviews here on the podcast. He also is a certified financial planner. He owns a business called Simple Wealth Planning. If you need any help in that area, check Andy Flattery out. And then, of course, the trusty co-host Tom Griffin and my younger brother Neil Flattery. Those guys are just busy being husbands, being fathers, they're family men, but also they do a ton of work here on the show. So thanks again for listening. We really appreciate you guys subscribing and supporting the Moonlight Graham Show.